All right, Alex.
What you seeing?
I got 122 flag, 107 front, uphill. I'm excited.
Hello, friend. My name is Scott Epstein, also known as Scotty the Caddy, and welcome to the Links and Lifestyle Podcast. I'm grateful to be here and thankful that you're taking the time to listen. Before we jump into this week's topic, let's talk a little bit about golf. Congrats to Wyndham Clark for winning his second U.S. Open. He lost his mom to cancer when he was in college. He worked through a lot to get where he is now as a golfer. He had an issue last year at Oakmont where he destroyed a locker at last year's U.S. Open. He's made an effort to make amends for it, and he's working through that. He's now a two-time major winner. Sam Burns, who came in second, had his chances. I got to meet him when I was an honorary observer at the RBC Heritage back in April. Super guy, young family, Christian, follower. He was absolutely gutted. He got emotional when he shared that his father, after the bitter disappointment, said that he was proud of him. As a dad, that moment was very, very cool. Tremendous. This past week on June 22nd was my 48th birthday. I'm not a big birthday guy when it comes to mine. My schedule being in New Jersey means that Melissa and the kids are down in South Carolina and not here to celebrate with me. In recent years, if I have work, it's just a normal day with a solid meal to cap it off. Each year I have dinner in Atlantic City with a good friend at my favorite restaurant, the Old Homestead down there at the Borgata. My wingman got sick and canceled, and I still went alone this year and had a great meal. My birthday was a day of fun, reflection, and some lessons that I want to share. So let's tee off and dive in. Like I said, for me, it's just another day. Gym, errands, went to Six Flags by myself and went on a roller coaster. Solid food, had an acai bowl from Pliables. I wrote this podcast, I read, I grabbed dinner with a buddy. Like I said, very laid back day. Calling people on their birthdays. A business mentor from my network marketing days taught me that. I had a piece of paper on the wall that had a list of like 20 things that successful people did, and that was one of them. I make the effort to stand out and do the right thing and make calls on birthdays. So I got a lot of nice calls and chats with people this year, made it feel special. A very successful realtor from that same business always reaches out on my birthday and sent a 36-minute YouTube video about gratitude, which I watched and shared with my family, and it was awesome. I'd seen it before, and it was just what I needed. So let's rapid fire some cool lessons that I want to share. Growth hurts. Becoming the best version of yourself comes with a lot of goodbyes. It is uncomfortable to do it if you really want to grow. The pain you feel today will be the power you will feel tomorrow. Over the last year, Melissa and I have had some people leave our lives that we thought were going to be there forever. At the time, I questioned it, and we did, and now I can look back on it and realize it was the best thing that could have happened, in part because of our growth and my growth, and in some ways they weren't going in that same direction. A guy, JJ Douglas, who I absolutely follow, really enjoy his content. He's got a reel out there that I watch daily in which he talks about protecting my peace differently now. And not because I feel that I'm better than anybody, but I know what it costs for me to get here. How hard I had to fight to feel okay again. Crying in silence, questioning my worth. And what I've really gotten centered and in touch with is just how hard my 30s were. Both Melissa and I. Massive financial swings. A very, very rocky marriage. Raising small kids. Having a victim mentality. Reaching my bottom, in which I just, decided to choose a path of sobriety. I mean, that was my 30s, man. Those were those hard times. And now, I protect my peace. I protect who I let in. I protect who I share my life with. A lot differently now. Gratitude. For many years, I've been grateful. And one of the things the video talked about is how I can't feel fearful and I can't feel angry when I'm grateful. And those feelings crush everything. So being grateful is important. And that can be done a variety of ways. Gratitude lists, saying the words thank you when your feet hit the floor. Before you even get out of bed, talking and thinking about 3 things that I'm grateful for before my day even starts. We in this country have more than 98% of the world. So even if we don't have what we think we want or what other people have, there's still a ton to be grateful for. And, between the years of 2011 and 2014, like in those darkest days and darkest moments, I now realize that I was not very grateful. I wasn't really grateful for much of anything. And in part, that's why those times were so hard. Winning is not an exterior thing. It's an interior thing. The mentality, how I talk, how I walk, how I think, overcoming things, navigating a room and navigating relationships. It's a process who I'm becoming. I and we see people that, in my case, have 12 years of sobriety. I'm living life the right ways. But as I've navigated and shared on this podcast, man, it was not always like that. And so winning interior is really the foundation and where it starts. Self-love is vital and the cure for everything. I and we must love yourself. When things happen like rejection or frustration or any one of a million challenges, it's just so important to love myself. And so in that respect, I realize, being selfish and taking care of me is okay. When I have to go to my meetings, when, I want to eat certain things, when I want to be around certain people, it's okay to be selfish. I can't be the best version of me if I don't take care of myself. And listen, I've said this before, everything in life comes at a cost. Choices and decisions to make every day. Everything we struggle with has opportunity and lesson. Being resilient, life is tough. When something happens with the kids and maybe they make a mistake or don't make the right choices, well, just what's the lesson? What did you learn from it? If the same thing happens again, what are you going to do differently? Victim mentality is a killer, so be nice to yourself. I've talked about it ad nauseum about feeling and being the victim, and I know for me, when I'm talking to people or engaged with them and they're going down that victim rabbit hole, it's hard to hear, and depending on the relationship, I can be really firm and make suggestions around it, and other times just, if someone's not coachable and just wants to be the victim and that's where they are right now, then they'll learn that that's not good pretty quickly. If I want to have everything I can possibly want and more, be a good person. The better a person you are, the more likely that is to happen. There's no better strategy for getting what I want. And it's so true. And I caddy, like I said, for some very, very high level guys. And one of the things I often will tap into is conversations around that type of stuff. Talk about their journeys, where they were, where they are now, how they got there, and things like that. One of my biggest ones is feeling abundant. Abundance is not just about money. It's about an overflow in all areas of life. Not only money, but health, relationships, spirituality. I feel and live a very abundant life. And wealth is about money and possessions. Many that are wealthy are not abundant. I have an abundance of people in my life that care for me and I care for them, and I get to contribute to them being better, and they certainly get to contribute to me being better. So that was one that I hit in the videos that really hit me. So my birthday reflection. What has occurred in my life as a result of starting the Links in Lifestyle journey and starting this podcast. And our church service on the way over here to record was titled No Longer. And so, in the program, we talk about God winks or things happening that are just the right timing. So I'm no longer heavily involved in sports gambling and an obsession with watching and following sports. I'm no longer eating sweets. We'll get to that with the win in a second. I'm no longer 200 pounds. I'm down about 20 pounds and nearing my peak college weight of 176. My sobriety and walk with Jesus journeys have never been better. My relationships and connections with Melissa and my kids have never been better, in spite of being 750 miles away. The way my body feels and the way I feel toward myself has never been better. One of my closest friends my Atlantic City guy who canceled, but we had dinner last week in Staten Island. He asked me what my goals are with the podcast and strongly urges me to make them shorter and wants to see thousands of people listening. Without batting an eye, I thanked him for his feedback, and I shared with him the impact that simply doing this podcast is having, which I just outlined for you. I told him that those that are listening and some that are listening and also catching the short content pieces that I'm doing, send me notes, absolutely loving it and sharing cool lessons and things that they're getting from it. That's what I'm getting from putting myself out there and doing the podcasts. Some longer form podcasts with guests are in the hopper and are going to have some great stories and lessons to share. Having said all that, and I typically run through it quickly, and I wanted to provide some context and just some depth around it. If you're enjoying the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share on the platform that you're watching. I blow through it very fast each week, and I just, I felt compelled to share all that. So thank you for bearing with me. Let's jump into our big finish. Win for the week, challenge, Bible verse. Win for the week. I had a very fun Father's Day with my brother and his family. It was enjoyable. I got to man the grill, and it was a wonderful day. His family, his in-laws, his brother-in-law, Logan, just super people. We had a great time. And my birthday was a relaxing day of real reflection, goal setting, and I maintained discipline and healthy choices through both of them. I was exposed to some really good sweets. Could have had a little bit, but I chose not to and felt really good about it. Challenge. Just continuing on this path, making solid choices. I've developed some really great habits, and I'm working on a couple new ones, which I'll share down the road, and just maintaining discipline. Work continues to be great, and the more disciplined I am, the better my body feels, and the better I can be at my job. Bible verse. I chose from Romans 12, verse 2, in line with what we've been talking about. Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. So what does that mean? It calls on believers to reject the values, behaviors, and priorities of the world, and instead let God change the way you think so you can discern his will. I've got a little kitty cat right here. Do not conform. Be transformed, meaning a change that reflects an inner reality after being with God. It's not just a superficial change, but a deep spiritual one. That's one that I personally can speak to. I'm very present to and connected to Jesus on a daily basis and ask for his guidance and his help. Renewing of your mind refers to replacing worldly thinking with God's truth, so I can judge what is good, acceptable, and perfect. I continue to not be perfect, but I'm very present and make the right choice more now than I ever have. Spiritual application. Guard your thoughts. When you think in line with God's word, you align your life with his purpose. I can certainly connect to that. Over the last couple weeks, I did play a little when I was in Atlantic City, and it was fun. It was under control, and I just, my thinking is just on point, and I'm really grateful for that. Living in alignment. Transformation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of spiritual growth and obedience. I'm just continuing on this journey, just trying to get better, and just trying to help others, really be connected to people leaning into me and me leaning into them. So that's a wrap this week. Thank you. God bless. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Hello, friend.